Hello and welcome back to Roguelike Thursdays. I've decided that I'm not going to follow a link that links to something else like we did last time with the review of the roguelike leading to the roguelike, because that way the more you spam the roguelike Rogue Basin wiki, the more likely you would be to get drawn, which I don't think is a good idea. Chickhack is a very cheap roguelike that runs on the Commodore 64 platform. You are a young chick warrior from your village. A terrible drought has caused all your village's crops to dry up, and there's a risk of famine. So your village elder asks you to search for the fabled sacred grove in the distant mountains where the seed of life is rumored to lie. Okay. Developed for the Commodore 64 in 2009? Why? Why do people do this? And as always, the Roguelike Basin has not failed. Chickhack does exist here. Now I'm going to have to figure out how to run a Commodore 64 emulator, which every single person that plays this game is going to be doing, so it's not it's not even like you gain the benefit of the, 3 Commodore 64 owners out there getting to play with it. I get it, I was actually hoping, I was looking into some games that are developed for the Game Boy Advance to see if I could put them on an equivalent, like a Game Boy Advance or a hacked DS or something. But it's still very difficult for anyone to play. Okay, movement is with V keys, that's good. To install and run on your desktop, please obtain a... They actually say obtain a Commodore 64 emulator. So they're admitting that they themselves can't even run it. Do I have a Commodore 64 emulator already? Let's see. Do I want it to be fast or accurate? I don't really care. Let's go with fast. So heads up while I'm figuring this out. I was looking for music to put in the background. I don't know if I'll have music in the video or not, but I was looking for music, at least for myself, in the background, and I use copyright-free music or music that I have the right to use. Which is more often the case. I've bought licenses for Adrian von Zingler and for Windswept. And I have seen people, they use video game music in order to do that, and that video game music isn't copyright free. Often video game companies allow you to, or they don't automatically strike your music on YouTube because they think you're playing their game and they don't want to strike you playing their game. But it's not copyright free at all. And they could strike you and be fully in the right. And actually, but the way YouTube does copyright as well is actually more permissive than normal copyright engines, because essentially YouTube has signed a deal with all major music publishers to allow their music to appear on YouTube. In return, YouTube notifies them when their music is being played, and they give them a share of the cut, or they allow them to copyright strike with 3 strikes instead of just suing the person into oblivion right off the bat. So YouTube is actually more permissive than normal. But yeah, you have to be careful. I wanted to use Donkey Kong music, and I actually did an edit with Donkey Kong music for my Anoxic Depths video, which I thought was quite funny, because whenever I was running out of oxygen, I'd play the running out of oxygen music in Donkey Kong, and then the drowning music and the underwater music, and I thought it sounded quite nice. But I don't own rights to Donkey Kong, and I wasn't playing Donkey Kong, so I didn't do it. And it'd probably be fine, but I think if you have a solid foundation, it makes it a lot easier to continue along the right path. Okay, so I think I'll just jump ahead to this point right here, instead of showing you all the setup for trying to get this Chickhack to work. And essentially I had to figure out how to make a Commodore 64 work. So the letters you see on the screen right now, like the star and the quotation marks and whatnot, you don't press those in order to have them appear. So to press quotation marks, you press Shift-2, and in order to get a asterisk, you have to press the letter 2 spaces to the right of the P key. And then after typing all those in, it turns out do not ever hold down the Shift key for anything else, otherwise you'll get the wrong symbol for load and for run, like the L and the R you do not want to try to capitalize. And then the emulators actually take forever to load anything that you try to load, as you see right now, which then has not worked anyways. So I think if I just type run, it will now... Oh, did it actually work? Okay. But it actually took about 3 minutes, I think, to load this game, which is apparent. This is the fast version, not the true emulator version. So I'm not sure. Now, I did have, we used to have when I was a little kid, actually until I was probably 12 or 13, we had a Windows 98 computer, I think it was. It might have been Windows 95. And then we also had an HP from about 2002 later, which would take about 15 minutes to start up, maybe a bit longer. And it was actually nice because you could start it up, you could go do something, and then you come back, check on it, you could go do something. And it's the same with games like RimWorld. You know, you get it started, but then you You write a little bit. Now this feeds into addiction. I don't check emails that often, but you could be checking emails. You could be looking at a YouTube video, which I probably do too much, really. You could be watching a YouTube video. You could be finishing up a drawing or something. It lets you ease yourself into playing a game instead of jumping right in. You click on like a game like Heroes of Might and Magic and the game starts immediately. But I think that's much healthier, actually, to just start when you want to start. But maybe the experience of having the disc whirring in the background while you're getting ready, you're setting up your teacup, you're putting on your goggles and your sweater to go play a Commodore 64 game. Who knows? So let's see if this actually works. But if everything takes this long to process, I don't quite understand the appeal. I went to a Commodore 64 forum, which was from 2013, where people were still talking about their actual Commodore 64s and how do I get this to work, and I think my keyboard's broken, I need to fix it, how do I do that? And so people are still using these things for some reason. And, you know, I do think the past, a lot of things did actually work better, and it is interesting to see why they worked better. But this so far I have not been convinced by. Okay, so I remember reading that the controls were V keys, so... Okay, so I'm the yellow chick. I'm going to turn the music back on, I guess. Okay, now what? Oh, oops. Now what am I looking at here? Is this real time? No, it's just I can't move. Okay. There's a chickadee there. Oh, you have to press space between each. It's like Rogue was. I'm pretty sure, like I've seen mods for Rogue that get rid of that entirely and it works fine. So, let's see. Press for help. Movement keys. Inspect is there, okay. Use item from backpack, list items in backpack, pick up item from floor is P or comma, okay. Wow, it took a while to draw the entire screen. I think maybe the sedate pace is what appeals to people, or the feeling that you're working with an analog device. I mean, it used discs, like it used cassettes, so it's not, I guess you could call that analog. Like, it's not like on or off, which is what digital means, of course, but it's... You don't feel like eating a pile of tasty grain. Okay, but I'd still like to pick it up. I guess I can't. Okay, and what is this? This is a staircase, maybe? I was told this was inspect. Unless the key is different. Inspect item on floor. Right? So if I stand here and say inspect, or say inspect, perhaps the key is different as well. Because all the other keys seem to be different. It's a pile of tasty grain. Okay, so if you're playing along, then you will want to use the apostrophe key in order to look, not the semicolon as it says. And then in order to... Oh, I don't know what that was. If I press a key, there's like a very solid delay between me pressing the key and whatever happens. Like, watch, I'll press 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And I move twice there very slowly. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So it's very deliberate. This music, I don't think it'll be the same music. Maybe I can sync it up, but this music is not appropriate right now. Okay. Use item from backpack, list items in backpack. Yeah, what do I have? I have twigs, mistletoe, downy feather coat, cute beak, woolly booties, magic daisy, and a woolly bobble hat. Sounds like a very cutesy game. If it was in any... Is that a newt over there, or is that another art object? Oh, this is actually tiring out my arm. Because, like, I have hand and arm and back issues, right? And this is actually exhausting to play right now. Okay, what is this? It's a featherberry. I'll take 1 featherberry, please. You don't feel like eating it. Yeah, but I would like to pick it up. But the pickup key doesn't seem to be whatever you think it might be. I don't know why the key mapping would be different for a Commodore. It's kind of strange. Because you think that any emulator would just remap everything. So maybe it's Shift P? or shift, whatever. Did that grab it? No, it's still there. There must be a way to pick this stuff up. Really quit? No. Okay, so that still moves me, even if I hold down the shift key. Don't feel like eating the featherberry. Yeah. Page up, page down, home, and... oh! Okay, that's interesting. Oh, please don't tell me it reloads it. Good, 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 good. Okay, don't press the N key. While that loads, maybe I'll try to read the README. Okay, so I've been doing a little bit of reading about the Commodore 64, and apparently it was normal for cassettes to take 30 minutes to load, if not more. I've tried toggling warp options on and off. I don't know if they're working or not. They might be on by default, and the 3 minutes was actually way faster. But I think there's a reason people were... I saw it on one of the comments, someone was saying, no wonder consoles were dominating the market at the time. Because, you know, you plug in your game and you're good to go, versus waiting for half an hour for your disc to load. Now, I think the advantages of something like this could be the mindfulness required in order to do something with your Commodore 64. For instance, you have to plan half an hour ahead, so you put it down and you put your tea on to boil, you start making your lunch, you eat your lunch, you finish your tea, you go, you sit down, you start writing or you start playing the game or whatever. You know, you see that it's going to be a rainy day, you think, oh yeah, I should light a fire in the stove, and it'll be nice to have something to play, so I'll fire up the Commodore 64 while it rains, and then I'll get to loading up the stove, and by the time the stove gets burning properly, the house will have been cooled down, will be cooling down a bit from the overcast, and so the fire will keep that off, and Commodore 64 should be fired up by then too, and I can get to playing my lovely Chickhack or something. But this might actually be a case where I am unable to continue playing the game simply because I don't have enough time. So I did a bit of reading though, and the reason, well, I'm not sure why I couldn't pick up those food items, but they were all food items I was looking at. Anything that was a dot above another dot, it was a food item to restore your coat or your health. So I wasn't injured, so I guess I didn't need them. It's also kind of a pleasing color, the purple, I guess. I think if I was to make, well, you want the full experience, I guess, if you're on the Commodore 64, and maybe it's necessary for whatever loading reason, whatever data reason, so stuff doesn't break. I was reading some stuff will break if you don't have true loading enabled. But I think a Commodore 64-like system, well, then you just have a purple display with weird, archaic ways of loading it, so maybe that's pointless, and the slower pace of things is really what you're there for. It's growing on me, the idea. It's not for me, but I think I can understand the appeal. Like, I really like e-ink displays, right? Like, the idea of a phone, I don't have one, but the idea of a phone, as in a cell phone, or even, well, yeah, just a cell phone, I guess, with a electronic ink display and an analog or not analog buttons, but buttons, instead of a touch screen. Really appeals to me, because then it's this magical little device that's like a piece of paper or a little book that you can have anywhere. You don't have to be in your house, you could be at the shed, you could be walking in the woods, and you have this little papery device that can display messages from your friends and whatnot, which is very magical when you look at it that way. But then you look at it the other way, that people can call upon you at any point for you to be their servant or their slave or their idle amusement at any point, and it really loses its appeal in general, which is how I see cell phones. And I think Commodore 64 is probably a way to, in the same way that I don't have a smartphone, I have a phone with buttons on it and it can only phone or text, and the texting you have to hit the buttons very slowly. I think, and even then that was only concession for my work because I didn't want it at all, but work made me get a cell phone basically. But I think for some people whose lives might have been consumed by a computer in the same way that cell phones consumed mine, might appreciate the mindfulness that still gives them the freedom of the world of exploration and usefulness there is for a word processor especially. I think that's, and it may be mathematics. I don't know how good a Commodore 64 is at math. I assume it's good at math. 64 kilobytes of RAM isn't anything to sneeze at, right? Like that. I think that's better than the submarines had in World War II, and they were, I'm not actually sure about that, but I think it is. And they were math machines, right? So I feel lulled into a sense of peace right now, where I'm just sitting here. There's an experiment I do sometimes, and it's remarkably hard to do. While you're watching this, so you can try it out. You're watching on a screen, and that screen is set in a monitor or on a phone or I watch a lot of stuff on my Switch, actually, on a laptop. And that laptop or that monitor is encased in the real world. My monitor is standing on a stack of books. Your phone might be on the shelf or on the edge of your bathtub or held in your hands. Your laptop, same thing, might be in the kitchen while you're cooking your lunch, frying up some eggs or something. And it is there. Look at the edge of your screen. Not the center of your screen, but the edge of your screen, and realize it's an object like any other. Like, it's the same as the knife next to you, or the toilet paper roll, or the bar of soap by the sink, or the mouse on your computer. The monitors aren't windows. I think we treat them, at least I treat them, like windows. But they're not windows. They're objects. You can move your head around looking at the edge, and it's an object that's in that space. And if you step back a little bit and look at everything while you're looking at it, it is neat. It's like it's a little moving display, but it's in the world still. It's not a window to another world. You're still where you are. This is a mindfulness exercise for OCD and certain forms of depression, where you can be walking along a road, say, and stop and just say, where am I, what's going on? And you're like, well, everything's terrible, I'm miserable, I'm sad, these people don't like me, I have this terrible relationship, everything's going wrong, my job, I'm scared I'm going to lose. You're like, no, none of that's real. Those messages on your phone, those are on an object. That's a brick with little charged ions on it, right? That's just a brick with charged ions on it. It isn't actually what is going on. Right now, you're standing on a road. There's trees around you, maybe there's a car driving by. The sky above you is blue or cloudy as it is. It's windy or it's not. But that is what's going on, is where you are right now. They call it mindfulness. Essentially, you stop and you say, okay, what is actually going on right now? Not how do I feel, but what is going on? You say, yeah, my feelings are real, and yeah, they are, but what is going on? Are you under attack right now? The answer is no, you're not. And a lot of the threats disappear. You can imagine if you were able to turn invisible and hide and no one was able to find you, then they would never come after you, right? Because they couldn't find you. And that's the same thing, right? The threats, they might exist in the future, but our ability to predict possibility is so strong that it can make the possibility of the future seem like a reality, but the reality is not that. And I think screens are the same thing. They look like a window into what is, but it's not. It's just a display. Flip it around, look at the other side. This is just a display. And if you can keep the display in the world while you use it, it is a really magical experience, I find. And I think that's probably what people are looking for when they buy like these retro DS looking things, or even when they first probably were excited by the Switch, or they get this Commodore 64 emulator or an actual Commodore 64, or they get one of those, I forget what they're called, those e-ink smartphones, the light phone I think it's called. They're trying to put it back into the world. They're trying to say this isn't a window into another realm where all is chaos and all is potential, but instead it's just another object like a hammer or a screwdriver or a bicycle that is there, and I can use it and I can leave it as I may because it's just there to manipulate. It isn't something that sucks my entire being in. So I think virtual reality, it's unnecessary in a lot of ways. If you play a video game like Minecraft or Skyrim and you almost fall off an edge, at least me, my heart will jump. I'll be like, whoa, that was scary, I almost fell. Of course, I'm not walking even, right? I'm sitting at a desk. I'm using like 3 fingers and my arm to move a mouse. There's no falling going on, but the world feels real because it encapsulates my entire being, because it's sound and sight, and that's almost everything. But even then, if you just look at the edges of the screen, and I think a thicker bezel is probably better for this. You look at the edges of the screen so you can see it, and you say, oh no, this is in the world. This is something that is in the world, and I can still look. And then what happens is you go, okay, wow, my room doesn't look nice right now. I just came back from a trip, I gotta clean that up, There's no natural light in here right now because I've closed the curtains so that there's less echo. Maybe that's not worth it. Maybe I want to have that natural light. It's also cloudy out right now, so it wouldn't help that much. But I think looking at where you actually are is important too, and say, okay, you know what? I don't like this environment right now. I'm going to change it. I'm going to tidy this up or move this around because I am still in that realm. I'm sitting here right now, and no matter how hard I stare into the screen and think I'm there, I'm not. What are you doing right now? I'm sitting on a chair staring at a light board. It sounds comical, right? And I'm not with anyone. I'm not talking to anyone that's listening to this. I'm just talking into a microphone, right? But that's the other power of our ability to see the future, is the awareness that someone will hear this and someone will see this. And so we are talking. It's the same way you read books and write books. But Socrates had criticisms of books because you can't argue with the author. They can't explain something to you. You can't debate that back and forth. And so Socrates saw books in the same way, as this object whereby you can't have a discussion. And I've definitely read books where I felt that, where I say, yeah, Socrates was right, I need to talk to this author about this, but the author was dead 400 years ago, or the author is some famous person way over there, and you say, well, email can solve that maybe if they're still alive and they want to listen to you, but you're still not having a discussion. You're making a presupposition about who they are, and then you're arguing with that presupposition instead of having that discussion in the first place. It does allow greater spread of ideas. There's always... I'm a bit of a Luddite about technology in a lot of ways, but its advancement also excites me, and I think there is a lot of benefits, but I think every benefit comes with many, many drawbacks. If we can accept those drawbacks, that's okay, I guess, but we should at least admit they're there, I think, and try to figure out what is the best way to stay grounded and say, where am I? And okay, no, I want to be sitting with my computer out on the deck in the sun. That's where the e-ink display comes in, because sunlight can light it up, right? I want it to be part of this world. I want to be looking out over my garden. I don't have a garden, but this is like the dream, right? I want to be looking out over my garden, warm, clean air, light breeze, no insects. I'm outside the sun. And I've got this fascinating little display here, like looking at a piece of art or holding a hammer that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to hammer in some nails because this is my tool right here. And I'm going to play some Chickhack. And I'm going to hit the letter, and I will wait, and the thing will move, and there'll be a half second or a quarter of a second between each action, but that's okay because I'm being slow, I'm being deliberate. I'm not in a rush, I have time. I don't need to do 500 things in a day. I'm just going to spend the afternoon going through like 2 floors of this dungeon, right? I don't need to rush. It's very relaxing, it's very peaceful. Because right now I'm thinking, okay, it's the weekend, I just had a big work trip, and I need to relax from that work trip, so I got to relax harder and fit more into the long weekend. But my friend's coming up, so I have to see him as well somehow. But how am I going to relax and see him? Okay, I guess I need to record more, and I need to get a bunch of editing done early, and then I need to read a bunch, so I've got that extra, because I don't have much time. I'm behind on all my entertainment, on my own hobbies, and on my relaxation, so I've got to cram that all into this long weekend and take advantage of that long weekend after this work trip. But of course, that's self-defeating, right? And instead, you could just say, I'm going to fire up the old... Like, imagine having a patio outside, maybe. So you could, shelter it from the rain. But a waterproof computer with the e-ink screen, where the sun shines on it, and you can be outside. I think there's something magical about that. And faster, 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 and more and more and more. And the more doesn't actually get you anywhere anyways, right? It's like, if you can have fun twice as fast, it's like, okay, so now you need twice as many things. Who cares, right? You can just have the same amount of fun. It's like people still enjoy playing D&D, even though it's slower than playing Rogue. So why doesn't everyone play Rogue? And it's like, well, because they're still having fun either way. So pick your poison, which game you like more, and have fun slower, because it's like, who cares? I want to play an hour of D&D, not 10% of D&D, right? It's like, yeah, but with Rogue you could do 20% in the time it takes you to do 10% D&D. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I just want to play an hour of D&D and have fun. And I think, I have a list of games I want to complete. But they kind of turn into a chore to complete them sometimes. But you sit back on the Commodore 64 and you say, I'm never even going to beat Chickhack, right? So just play Chickhack, just relax. Enjoy the Commodore 64. So yeah, I get it, even though I don't think I would keep doing it. But maybe in the future I would. It's one of those things that slowly tempts you, I think. It grows on you the more you become disgusted with the excesses of modernity. It's like how the Amish actually use computers. I didn't know this until recently, but Amish aren't set on a specific year, and they're not set a certain amount of years in the past. They actually simply vote on all new innovations into their life and decide what they will take forward and what they'll leave behind. And so they had a long discussion about computers, and they decided that a computer that allows you to fax and send emails in specific circumstances that go directly to your printer are probably beneficial for the community. They're made of bronze or something. They're very, very hardy, heavy duty, and you have one computer in the community that you go to and you send out your email and it prints it off. And I think the Amish know what they're doing in that sense of, yeah, the advancement is awesome, but let's see which parts of it we want, and let's use it in the most beneficial way to ourselves rather than taking everything at once. Computers are really in their infancy still, and I don't think the technology is there. I think the ARM technology and like Apple's M1 technology is starting to show an advancement of what computers can be, and I think e-ink in some ways is also an advancement of what they can be. OLED, similar maybe. I believe, I could be wrong here, but I think OLED black is actually dark, whereas on normal LED it's the brightest color there is the black color, or it's equally bright. But I think OLED, it actually turns off the section. So that seems like an advancement that's actually moving in the direction of computers being an object set in our world that isn't just a prototype that we're trying desperately to keep alive, and we have to be all keep it as this really fragile thing. But it's so addictive that we're desperate to make it work, even though it barely works at all. And maybe there were some people who said, Commodore 64, it worked. It was a different device. It was a tape machine instead of a bunch of circuits and wires, but it worked. And you can see that with, like, I don't know if you've ever played those handheld games. Like, I have a Pac-Man game that's completely mechanical, and little balls fall down from a plinko board. Basically, you have to catch them, and it goes into a high score thing. and it works, right? And then you get a little handheld game from the same time that's electronic, and it's garbage a lot of the time. You look at something like even the Switch compared to the Game Boy Advanced SP or the DS, and the Switch, much more powerful, much more comfortable in some ways, bigger controls, although I disagree actually there. I have custom handles for it that make it a lot more comfortable, but you can't just chuck the Switch in your backpack. It's heavy and it's delicate because it's got all these joysticks and buttons on the front that you have to protect. You have to put in a carrying case, and then it's not as quick as folding up the SP and stick in your pocket, or folding up the DS and stick in your bag. And even the DS versus the SP, the DS is kind of too big to carry in your pocket, really. Whereas the SP, you just fold it up, boom, you're good to go. So there was advancements in power aren't always, and size and pixel density aren't always advancements in actual usability. Yeah, I don't know. Just rambling. I don't think this game's going to load in the next, 50 years, so I don't know if it's going to do the full half hour or what. I think I'll just leave it there. So that was Chickhack, for what we briefly saw of it, and that was the Commodore 64, I guess. If I get a Commodore 64 game in the future, I probably will just re-roll. Or maybe, if I have the time, and again, it's like, you make the time if you have the Commodore 64, maybe peaceful, zen-like life. Maybe I'll fire it up half an hour before I start recording. We'll see. Alright, see you next time.